What is up, Chop Shot Gang? Your Houston Rockets just beat the Detroit Pistons in a nail biter that did not need to be a nail biter. Close game, lots of CTE basketball, but we got the win on the road, so we'll start there with the positives. The Rockets got the win on the road. Okay, we got the win on the road against a frisky Detroit team, I might say. This is not your little brother's Detroit Pistons of last year, so they're a little better, more vets on the team. But at the end of the day, still an ugly game, okay? But we got to start off with the positives. Well, now we got that out the way. Let's get to the nasty CT basketball that we saw. No, I'm just joking. But the Rockets' offense is still problematic at this point, and there's multiple reasons for it. Watching this game, I really didn't even watch the game live. I had to watch it after work. So I was working today. Didn't look at no Twitter, no Facebook. I didn't look at YouTube. Didn't look at anything, so I just had to get home from work, watch the game. I put a tweet out letting everybody know, like, let me know how the game goes. And I would shout out to everybody who responded. A lot of funny replies. But watching the game recorded, it did kind of the emotions of watching us choke away leads, go through our offensive spells. It was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking to say the least. Does leave you questioning a lot of things, but there were some good and some bad and some ugly from the game. We're going to talk about it. So this was a game I wanted to take notes from. So I brought out my notebook. So I'm going to go through the notebook and hit on some of these points that I saw from the game. Okay, so we'll do that. First half, this is what I wrote. Generating good looks, just not making shots. Team looks hesitant. So I'm thinking now at this point, as poorly as we're shooting, I think we're 29th in true shooting percentage in the league. That means we're not only shooting bad from 3, we're shooting bad from 2, and we're shooting bad from the free throw line. Guys are kind of hesitant to take their shots. There's a lot of holding the ball and trying to make something out of it and turning into turnovers on the team, which is really bogging down the offense. So that is something to look out for. To me, the most egregious part of today's game was the guard play. So I put guard play, semicolon. Trapping the ball handler in the pick and roll is the go-to for teams now. We are reluctant to pass. Bigger offensive issues lie there. So what do I mean by that? If you notice today, the Pistons elected to trap our ball handlers off the pick and roll. So whenever Jalen or Fred would have the ball, they come up, try to call for a screen like we typically run. Most of the plays is a pick and roll or some DHO or something like that where they give the ball to Şengün and then run a handoff off of movement off of it. The person guarding LP would trap the ball handler. So that's a trap is when the opposing center will get on the level of the screen and stay there, and they try to corral whoever the ball handler is in order to force the ball out of their hands. Now, any normal guard would read that, and any normal team would have a player ready to receive said trapped ball handler's pass, which would go to the center of the court or wherever it's located, where you then develop a 4-on-3 situation because you have 2 players guarding the one ball handler. You have 4 of your players out there against their 3. And for a good offense, this is called an advantage. So you're technically saying that the Detroit Pistons were conceding an advantage for the Rockets. And guess what we did? We just kept on dribbling. We kept on dribbling. The point guard did not pass the ball out of the trap. Neither did our 2 guard. They kept on dribbling. And what this forced was a lot of late shot clock shots. And Ryan Hollins did a great job pointing that out, because what happens when you try to escape out of the trap through dribbling is either A, you're going to get trapped and pick the dribble up and get turned over or call a timeout. B, you do finally get to escape, but they're going to corral you into a corner likely. So whatever you do from there is not going to be good. Or C, you're going to drain so much time trying to escape the trap. You've already hijacked the offensive possession. So pick your choice, because we did all 3 today. And that really comes down to the awareness of what the other team is trying to do for you. Most disappointingly for me was Fred VanVleet. Like, he is too much of a vet to play that way against these defensive looks. So as the trap came, Jalen, Fred tried to dribble it out. By the time they were able to even get a pass off, it was 10 seconds left on the shot clock. Next thing you know, guys were just throwing up buzzer beater heaves. We hit like 1 or 2, but overall, that is terrible offense. Now, as a coach, what you want to do is tell your guys what to expect, right? You guys go into game planning prior to the game, anticipating what the other team wants to do. If there's something that you may miss, you adjust to it. And you have to adjust to it quickly in professional leagues. And I think one of the issues Ime has is sometimes there's a bit of a lag in his adjustment to these defensive looks. There's a bit of a lag in adjustment to the lineups. There's a bit of a lag in adjustment to personnel and using the right players. So we suffer for it by watching some really, really ugly offensive basketball. A lot of it is not on him. Like today, they were generating open threes. Guys were just not hitting them. But at the end of the day, if you're going to get trapped as a ball handler in the pick and roll, you have to be content with passing that ball off. You guys know the analogy. I keep using it of being the robot, the computer as a guard, where when the trap comes, if that's the play to make, you make that play 10 out of 10 times. I'll give you one time where you get a little greedy and try to go for where you try to dribble out of it, get a shot. But in order for the team to win, you have to make that play 10 out of 10 times. Give the ball up to the center. Let him make the decision for you. The center is an extension of you, guard. You let him be the continuation of the offense. And guess what you're going to do? You're going to force Detroit's hand to either quit calling that trap or you're going to punish them. Now, it's hard to punish them when guys aren't making three-point shots. So there's the dilemma there. But back to, again, being a robot. Robots don't have emotions. You cannot get shooken by not hitting shots. Trust the process. Because at some point, you're going to hit a couple shots in a row. And what every coach does, like our coach does, when they see something that they thought would work and it's not working the way they thought, guess what they do? They panic and they cut it off. They would have adjusted. Now you have beaten a trap. Now they're going to play you traditionally in the drop like they want to because they know we got guys that could attack the drop in Fred and Jalen. Now you're playing to your strength again, and now you're putting your offense in a better position. But what did we do? We did not do that. We elected to dribble, pick up ball, turnovers, bad shot, to the tune of going cold for most long stretches of the game. And what ended up happening is we had to generate offense by Tari and Amen playing hellacious defense or Şengün just cooking people in isolation. Great that they're doing that. Wonderful. Not really sustainable in an 82-game season, especially against some really, really good defenses you're going to face that aren't named the Detroit Pistons. So we have to be better on that. And Ime tried to adjust in the fourth quarter. He adjusted by putting Şengün in the corner offensively and having Fred VanVleet set the screen for Jalen. But to me, this is a concession that telling JB that his plan worked. So I'm going to go away from my best action. As simple as our action is with the Şengün and guard pick and roll, we generate points out of it, but we're going to go away from it, and we're going to elect to go into guard-on-guard screens that lead to isolations. So, I mean, to me, that's not good. That's not good to be forced into something. At some point, we're going to have to dictate the terms of what we want to do. Still haven't seen that yet. A lot of it is on the players not being able to read the game in real time. But Coach Udoka has to exert some of his influence on that. So that was something that I saw from the game. Onto the second quarter, I put Şengün plays 10 minutes straight. And there was a lineup I liked that he played in, which was Tari, Dylan Brooks, Şengün, Amen, and Fred. That lineup was really good. The one was better was when you replaced Fred with Jalen Green. I think that was the best lineup from the game. I also wrote Amen and Tari work because they were connectors. Another key thing that needs to happen. I'm at the point, guys. Tari Eason needs to start. I mean, at this point, it's just, you know what I mean? Damn the politics. Like, he needs to start. He needs to start because what he does for the team, what him and Amen does, but him specifically because he actually can shoot, what he does for the team is he gives us a connector piece that the starters need. We have 5 guys on the starting 5 that could take over a possession at any moment. 2 of them, 2.5 of them, 2 or 3, Fred, not so much this season, they have the green light to do that from the structure of the offense because as a guard that's running the pick and roll, you can elect to shoot if you want to. You can elect to pass it to the big man if you want to. And if LP gets the ball in the pass, he can elect to pass it or score. The other players, Dylan and Jabari, for the most part, in the set that you want to run, their offense is limited to catch and shoot threes or attacking closeouts or mismatches. But the way they play at times in the offense is that if things break down, once again, back to being disciplined about not letting missed shots take you out of your character or out of your comfort zone. When things break down, they typically tend to get into hero ball mode, which you do not need. I need guys that are connector. A connector is a guy that gets the ball and passes it. If he sees that the advantage is in there, he moves the ball, moves on, moves off, cuts, does all the little things, runs in transitions, plays defense, plays the passing lanes. We need that, especially when you have a lot of guys that are play initiators and play finishers in one. You need guys that are in betweens, and that's what Tari Eason brings to the team. It brings a certain pace, a certain defensive range that we don't have. And yes, it's in the place of Jabari. I think that Jabari is being squeezed out of the offensive strategy just because of the lack of offensive structure. So he is a byproduct of the lack of offensive structure in the offense that is very autonomous on the players. But if you are a player that lacks the ability to ball handle or finish, you're kind of caught in between, and that's where he's at right now. And I'm seeing Tari do both. There was a play where Tari Eason was the initiator. He walked the ball up the court and got Sengun set up into action. If he's doing that, why isn't he starting? Why isn't he starting? It's like Ime wants to milk all the benefits of him and the men without actually giving them the benefit of actually having the role of a starter. I know there's politics involved, contracts, draft picks, roles, all that stuff is there. But at the end of the day, our offense gets so bogged down because we have so many players that can hijack any given possession. And when things aren't going right, they start playing crazy. We need guys out there to give us that jump start. We need somebody as a change of tempo that keeps it rolling. And I think he's that guy. And I think that you could make it work between him and the men coming off the bench and staggering their minutes with Jabari, where it's not much of a loss off the bench, because that is the counter argument to Tari starting, is that punch we get from the bench units with him and Thompson out there, you kind of lose that. So to me, it's worth a try if it jumpstarts the offense, if it jumpstarts the defense and gets us out to bigger leads that are sustainable. I think some of the stuff we can mitigate with lineups, but we already know how that goes. So start Tari Eason is the call that I'm making for that. I put JG OMG, bodied Cade Cunningham. And Jalen had a very Jalen-like game. Started off pretty good for the first quarter, crashed out for the middle of the game, then came back and helped close it out. Not pretty, but he got the job done, made some big buckets, forced the issue, got to the cup. So he was doing all those things. He had made there's a comment that from a article that I think it was Jonathan Fagan or whoever wrote it, where he talks about him comparing himself to him and Şengün to Jokic and Murray. And he says that's one thing he really thinks that they can be like that. Not saying that he's as great as they are or they're as great as them or Şengün is Jokic or he's Murray, but he sees that relationship. I like that. I need to talk about that in a different video, but I really do like that angle, because once again, at the end of the day, if you need somebody to close it out, you got to have a bucket to go get it. You know what I mean? You got to have a guy to go get it. And I want him to embrace that closer role and really be that guy, because from that position in the playoffs on the perimeter, a guy can get to the basket, can shoot, can make the two, the mid-range can do. That's what you want the ball in the hands when the game is on the line, right? Şengün can be the floor of the team. And I said this to somebody, Şengün can be the floor of the team. That means he keeps you in the game or gives you a cushion. And then Jalen can be the ceiling of the team, which is the guy that takes you over the top. I'm still not giving up on them. I know a lot of you want to trade them away for star players. Next note, I wrote down again, start Tari in all caps. Then I put fourth quarter Reed plus. I think Reed had a decent game today. Still hesitant, bro. You got to let it fly, brother. He got to let it fly. He got to let it go. Understand that his best attribute right now as a rookie isn't anything but his shooting. Like, he needs to understand that and play like that. Like, once the ball touches your hand, he should shoot it damn near every time. I don't give a damn. The defender is in his face. He has to learn to just have a quick mental trigger on shooting ball, because his actual physical trigger is pretty quick. He just needs to shoot it. I put Ime got to call a timeout. Milk Londale a bit too much. Once again, almost blew a lead, as we've seen like we had in the Golden State game, where we leave our starters on our bench units on there for a little bit too long, even if they're playing well. But tonight they weren't really playing well. When the score got around 6, call a timeout, brother. Get the starters in there and manage that score a little bit better. He goes to something a little bit too much and hangs in there until it's burnt out. I think he stood on that a little bit too much. And then adjustments to traps, I talked about that. Needed a little more creativity from him. And they tried some stuff. I put 3:17 in the fourth quarter, ran a Spain pick and roll to adjust to the trap. Spain pick and roll. So when the trap came initially, Fred would then come from the middle of the court up and back blocked. So he came up from the middle of the court, set a back screen on the center that was trying to trap Jalen, which allowed Jalen to get a way to get around the corner. And then Fred peeled out for a 3-point shot. Jalen did not pass it back to him because he was wide open, but he's been shooting bad. But Jalen did, I think, go to the cup and got fouled. So that was a good adjustment. But that's a one-time deal that you saw. And then I put Tari plays like Ed Reed. Like, he's just all over the place. Tari Eason, he's hooping right now, bro. And I put on Twitter today that he's outgrown the Corey Brewer archetype of energy player, where he's just up and down the court, just running, ripping, feeding all strictly off of just transition points and layups and just chaotic play. He has outgrown that. Tari Eason is at the point now where his offense is contained. It is structured. It is within the flow. It is measured. It is under control, which are all in itself a leap for him offensively, that his game is so balanced at this point. So this is a very, very positive development for the Rockets. And I think that for him, if he keeps going in that direction, then his role as a starter also becomes into question as to what type of way do you want to use him. Like I said, you saw him bring up the ball and initiate a little bit with Şengün to get the play set up. We're seeing him be a catch and shoot player. We're seeing him attacking players in the mid-range post. We're seeing him attack players off the dribble. We're seeing him get to the cup. We're seeing him finish in transition. We're seeing him pass out of drives, drive and kick situations. So that really, once again, that high level player, you're talking about the Mikal Bridges type of players, those really, really high level 3-and-D wings that aren't just one dimensional, where all they do is shoot and guard. He's very, very dynamic. You get into contract talks with this. It's going to be really interesting to see, when is this sustainable for him, and does he ever crack that starting 5? We need to start Tari at some point. We need to start Tari. Big picture for Ime Udoka. Just I'm not out on him. I threw that out there. People out on him. A lot of people seem to be out on Ime. They want a different coach. Some people advocate for an offensive coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. I think they need something to change as far as with the offense, but I'm going to give him a chance. Maybe there's a method that he's doing that I'm not aware of, where he wants guys to learn, right? I don't know, but I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to give him a benefit of the doubt. I still think it's too early to really call what the Rockets are right now. You got to let them kind of get into that. Like in change, in business change, there's a term, I forgot, but what the name of the philosophy is, but there's phases in change. One of the phases is called the storming phase. The storming phase is when people adjust to their roles and responsibilities and what their new needs and wants are and how they're going to fulfill their actions. And people are just getting used to the reality that a change is happening. I think that the Rockets are going through that right now, the storming phase. And then ultimately, when you get to the norming phase is when everybody accepts that. Now, we are dealing with a lot of younger players, so I think that storming phase may take some time. And I think that the norming phase, it may need some external actions from the organization or the coaching staff to have guys to understand what their roles are on the team and what they're being asked to do without having so much free reign. Free reign is good, but sometimes it's good to have a little bit of structure. So once they norm, I think that's where I'm looking forward to when I keep saying give them a couple weeks to gel. So it's still early in the season. I still think they're trying to figure out what they are. What we do know is they're a defensive team that plays with grit. They play with a lot of tenacity. They get it out the mud. They don't quit. These are all good qualities to have. If the offense ever gets to a point where it is semi-structured, look out. The Rockets are going to be talking about straight up just playoff appearance. As it is right now, we're not a great team. I say we're a good team. We're not a bad team. So we're just a middle of the pack team. We're very average right now, which for the Houston Rockets may be a good thing, as poorly as we looked on offense to be an average team. So think of once we get the shooting, hopefully gets back to league average, and we get a little bit of understanding of what guys' roles are. I mean, honestly, then that really takes them to that next level. I don't think we're at that OKC level this season. We don't have the horses for that race, but I think that we can be that OKC team that maybe went to the bubble and pushed the Rockets to 7. One of them type of teams, maybe this is our year for that. It's all about the steps, the progressions, and the baby steps. So let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's keep reality in mind. We are just 1 year removed from being one of the worst teams in the NBA history for consecutive seasons. So let's keep that in mind. Let's keep that in mind. Keep the big picture in mind. It's still, we're trying to make the playoffs. There's high expectations. At the end of the day, it's still about development. But if you guys like this video, make sure you hit the like button. If you are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Keep rocking with the Chop Shop, and we're going to keep dropping that.
DJ Candlestick. It's the Chop Not Slap Show.